Hey, Coach Sean here. Welcome to the Foundations Level 3 warm-up. You probably guessed at this stage in the game, everything is kicked up a notch. Not that you weren't training hard before, but now if you're pursuing the Foundation series, you need to be laser focused on subtleties of the movements, really increasing and improving your body development and performance, and staying very, very sharp when it comes to the fine details. Not a lot of people will make it this far. Okay, good for you for watching this. What I need you to do is watch this video all the way through. It is lengthy, but the warm-up has changed. The phases remain the same, joint mobility, core work, then crawls, but the sequence is different. It's more involved, it's more detailed, and you will benefit greater. The reason for this is that the series, the training, is that much more complex, okay? The concepts remain the same. Push-ups and bridges, squats and crow, pull-ups, leg raise, that kind of thing stays the same, but the variations are harder. And you need to warm up more thoroughly and challenge your body in different ranges of motion. So as always, stick with the warm-up. Never skip this. Always prioritize it. Watch this video all the way through. If you do have questions or concerns, address it with your coach. But never skip this warm-up. Watch it, study it, perform it every single day if possible. Check it out. Starting Foundations Level 3 warm-up with our neck nods. So chin to chest and look straight up. Do not push into any pain. Being in this Sphinx position will really stretch out the front of the neck. So take it easy. Remember to try to relax with it. We're doing 25-second intervals here. Very good. Nice and easy. And into ears to shoulders. Again, this is going to further stretch out the front of the neck. Don't push into any pain. Just get accustomed to doing your neck nods in this different position. Remember to deep breathe and relax with it. Very good. And side to side here. There we go. Working all 3 planes of movement, taking care of our neck. The cervical spine is very important for our health and our proprioception, our entire body mechanics. Excellent. Now rolling onto our hands as shown. We're going to alternate mini steps. Slight bend in the knee and ankle flexion and extension. Working some coordination, warming up the lower body. Foot and ankle mobility is super important as well. Now we're going to get into some modified squats. Rocking back and forth, supporting yourself with your hands, bringing the hamstrings to your calves, and a little bit of nice mobility for your hips, knees, and ankles. Again, they're 25-second intervals. And now into the windshield wipers. So letting both legs come to the side and simply flowing back and forth. Now don't push into any pain. If you can't go all the way to the floor, no problem. Also a good cue is let the outside and inside edge of your feet hug the ground as we go back and forth. And we're going to add to this stretch by reaching and stretching out the outside of that hip. Continuing that flow concept, but adding that further stretch in. We're in Foundations Level 3, so everything's going to be slightly more detailed now. Very good. And we'll get into the half kneeling stretch with the hip flexor, keeping your core tight, evenly distributing your weight on both legs and not just the bent knee. Stretching out that hip flexor, pulsing back and forth, breathing but staying nice and stable. Now, big step to the outside, 45-degree angle. Reach down with the hand as shown, and we're going to rock side to side and stretch out the hip even further. This is a great thoracic spine opener as well. Just back and forth. And now thread the needle, bring it down. Big inhale as we open the chest and keep that going. This is going to be integral for our high bridge in Foundations Level 3. We want to get accustomed to this movement, so make sure we do it every time before we train. Follow this exact warm-up. Same thing for the other side, half kneeling. Keep the core tight. Evenly distribute the weight on both legs. Stretch out that hip flexor. Breathe and pulse back and forth. When it's time, get that bent leg, step to the outside, 45-degree angle, reach down so your hand's in line with your knee, as shown. And we're going to open up the chest, look at the ceiling, rock side to side. And after our 25 seconds, we're going to thread the needle, just like the other side. Make sure we're inhaling on the way up and letting out that air as you thread the needle. Make sure your hips are stable and really feel that stretch in the T-spine and the hips. Phase 1, done. And phase 2 of the warm-up is our core work. I'm going to show you two options. The first option is shoulder taps and single arm plank behind the back. We're just going to keep that sequence going for 45 seconds. I'm alternating hands. You should feel this engage different sectors of your core muscles. And the idea here is that you're progressing to harder variations of planks in this warm-up. This is one option for you, so feel free to play with this and keep that core locked in place, but do remember to breathe. Very good. And I'm going to show you option 2. You're going to need a stool, feet up, and you are simply going to lock your midsection in place and extend the hips one at a time. This looks very simple, but I can assure you it's demanding on that midsection, and you actually activate the glutes quite well as well. Core is tight, hands are firmly planted into the ground, and you are alternating extending the hips. This is option 2 for your planks in this Foundations Level 3 warm-up. And just like the other phases, we are finishing with crawls, and I'll show you 3 different options, keeping in mind progressing, trying stuff that's harder. So the first one is the tempo crawl. You start slow and then do a few fast-paced crawls. You can go forwards and backwards. Obviously, if you have a big length, you can just keep going forward for 50 to 100 feet. And the idea with the tempo crawl is that you're slowing that pace down and then making it quicker almost at random. Work your way up to 5 minutes of crawls eventually. That is the goal. So your tempo crawl is a good option for you. Option number 2 for our crawls is the slow modified Spider-Man, where you're bringing the knee to the outside of the elbow, staying a little bit lower to the ground, controlling the movement greatly, thinking about getting slightly closer to the ground and just having those knees come to the outside of the elbows. Backwards is significantly more challenging than you'd think, so feel free to experiment with this, and as always, you can regress into a different variation of crawl until you build up that capacity. And your last option here is going to be the gator crawl, where you're adding in a push-up and bringing that extended hip towards the ground. This is much harder than you would think. You're basically doing a push-up every single time you make a crawl, and you are going to want to gradually build up that range of motion and also the time, the duration of these crawls. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to try this one, to start with it and then regress into something a little bit less challenging. The gator crawl is the third option, and I want you to work up to 5 minutes of continuous crawling.